I have the privilege of introducing Jason Hofmeister, who is the Acting Deputy Undersecretary for Farm and Foreign Agriculture Services at USDA, the Department of Agriculture, the finest cabinet agency in America. I want you to know that. And I'm pleased to announce that the new secretary was not confirmed yet, but he was approved by the Senate Agriculture Committee this morning. So hopefully we will have a Secretary of Agriculture in place very soon, which I think is important to all the issues that we're talking about today. So Jason has been at USDA for many years, been involved in agriculture, farm, and trade policy for over 25 years, almost 20 at USDA, and the rest at the Office of U.S. Trade Representative. He's been a leading negotiator on agriculture issues, involved with the CAFTA, the Central American Free Trade Agreement, China's accession to the WTO. We'd actually traveled together when I was at USDA. His wife, some of you may know, is Darcy Vetter, who is the chief agriculture negotiator for USTR. We had to call the Department of Justice today to ensure that there's no antitrust problems having him and her here on the platform. Actually, she's not here, but she did a great job at USTR representing the United States of America. So without further ado, I want to introduce to you from USDA, Jason Hofmeister.
All right, thanks. Good afternoon, good seeing y'all. I want to make just a couple remarks today about USDA and our role in the food security activities. You know, most governments are focusing on food security from a consumer side, making sure people have the ability to buy food, and they also focus on the producer side, making sure that the food is available. At USDA, we have the happy circumstance of looking at the world as both our customers, because we are such a productive country here in the United States, so we are feeding the world, but even concern about producers. We know that the standards the USDA sets, the practices we adopt, and the assistance we provide helps consumers as well. And so looking at both of those sides, one way to think about what we do in the department on food security means we cover a lot of things. We're a hub for basic and applied research. We have the world-famous data and information services, including the World Agricultural Outlook Board that has price information and forecasting. We have USDA as a regulator as well, and so our science-based policies and regulations that we apply also affect other countries and set models for what they do. And then we have an aggressive international capacity building program where we are working around the world to try and help consumers globally. So this is no surprise to this group that we do not look at food security merely through direct food aid. In fact, direct food aid in some ways is a sign of failure when we are having to ship food overseas to people who otherwise can't get it. It means we don't have consumers who have access or ability to purchase food. And so really that's at the core of what we do. Because we are such a productive country in agriculture, because exports are so critical to the bottom line of our farmers, we are looking at the world as a market. Our food security work is headquartered out of the mighty Foreign Agricultural Service in the USDA. We've got people in embassies in 93 countries around the world. We cover activities in 171 different countries, and we coordinate what the department does and interact with other government agencies. And that gets back to the fact that the importance of agriculture exports to the bottom line of U.S. agriculture means we are interested in finding consumers overseas, empowering them to be able to purchase food, and encouraging them to be encouraging their countries to set up systems that will allow them to do that. So that means an open, market-based economic system, multilateral trading system, liberal trading rules, promoting economic growth in countries, and promoting access to food all comes back to our core activity. So just let me get a little bit about some of the specific things you see USDA do. We do have direct assistance. Food assistance is what we do. In cases of acute need, relief, USDA is there. But we also are involved in longer-term solutions to try and end the cycle of poverty and hunger. One of our big programs that started in 2002 is the Mcgovern-Dole International Food for Education program. This is a program where we go into schools in other countries. We provide commodities, but we also provide assistance so that the children have access to food and education, and we also work in the communities to help develop good practices, teacher training, community health programs. This has fed over 40 million primary school children since its inception, so one of our big programs. Another program we have is called the Food for Progress program. So here what we do is work with other countries to promote economic development related to agriculture. So using funds that are generated by selling U.S. commodities in foreign markets, we promote training, we promote investment, and we promote productivity in foreign countries. So we build roads in remote parts of Senegal. Construction of a dam has just been finished in Jordan. Support cold chain storage facilities, projects in Pakistan, for example. So all these programs share the common goal of improving the production and the trade of agricultural goods locally and regionally. And again, it's anchored in our vision of a global food system, which is driven by worldwide availability and consumers with the ability to purchase the products they want. On top of that, USDA operates a number of trade and scientific capacity building programs. Most probably famous is the Cochrane and Borlaug fellowships, where we provide for technical experts, scientists, government officials to come to the United States to study how we develop technology, how we regulate, how we organize our economy, and then they're able to go back home with this information and apply it in their own context. We've run a number of programs to support the strengthening of the international system. That's through international standard setting bodies. That's through other countries who are implementing regulations. And the goal here is to establish regulatory systems that are based on scientific methodologies, encourage government regulations that are least restrictive to trade and maximizing customer choice, and setting health standards that are based on the latest knowledge that we have to ensure that consumers are being access to the safest food they could. So we're very active in Codex, we're very active in the World Organization for Animal Health, we're very active at the FAO. And then in addition to that, I should say this way, the United States is, when you look across all the function of our government, one of the biggest donors to international development and international food availability. And I think one of the key things that we try and do across all elements of the government is look at how do we develop the long-term capacity to allow people to have access to the food that they need. At the core of that mission has always been, how do we establish open and rules-based trading systems that encourage people to follow their comparative advantages, to become wealthy, to purchase products. Works out for us as sellers, works out for them as consumers and producers. And so when we look at the chronic underinvestment in agriculture, the inefficient use of inputs, underdeveloped markets, and poor governments around the world, our approach is to try and attack each of those as we can. Certainly we can't solve any of them, but in our approach across the board, we have programs addressing each of those issues. And the goal here is that global food security will not only do good for people who have an improved standard of living, but it does well for our producers and the country as a whole. So we've got a big goal in front of us, the famous 9 billion people by 2050. We think U.S. agriculture is a big part of that solution. We think USDA is a big enabler of U.S. agriculture and producers around the world. So thank you for having us here, and keep up the good work.